All right. So hello everyone. So for today's video, we're just gonna do another classic motion. The motion is this house gets the decline of tightly integrated families. We can just start off right into it. Yeah, game. So if I were closing government in this motion, a few things that are immediately popping out to me is that I know we gotta explain the counterfactual. I'm immediately writing that down. Like focused extension, and we got to be clear. What is our counterfactual? Is it on tightly integrated families being the same way as they have always been, or is it about tightly integrated families um still persisting, but in some other way that changes with the times? Um, and I'm also thinking about like what really is our definition of a tightly integrated family. That is subject to debate and subject to discussion, of course. Um, and I guess like this could mean multiple things. It could probably mean just the household arrangement, like the physical arrangement. You live with a lot of your family members, or you live in significant close proximity in living with family. um it might also just mean like um the the fact that family is quite an important thing in your social circle, that family is an all important um value in your social circle and in your life, that you should um go to reunions reunions with family. You should be friends with all of your cousins, etc., etc. So I think this is perfectly fine. And the reason as to why this is it's emphasized as to why it's tightly integrated is because tightly integrated, um meaning that all of these aspects of living are integrated with one another, which is like your housing, your finances. Like if someone gets into a bad situation, the others are expected to fill in and provide them with that emergency savings. And that's always connected to the fact that you have to share in those emotional burdens of being in a family, because we are family. Like because we are Dominic Toretto, and that we think that family matters and is more important than anything else because we're family. I think it's fantastic. I think a few things that you might want to immediately think about in this debate that I'm thinking about from closing gov is that I know that there's going to be a huge debate on relationships, the way in which people create relationships outside of a family, whether that be romantic or otherwise. Like opposition could make all of the arguments that talks about how, like, this makes people more um free to choose their relationships, like, and that's a good thing, like for sexuality or otherwise, and even other minorities that like, the newer identities of people, like, that feel they're displaced. I'm immediately thinking about like how, like, like immigrant families in developed countries, like second or third generation immigrants that just feel that they're disconnected from family traditional values in their culture, and so they want to branch outside of that family, and that's why it's not a good thing that they're stuck with that family forever. Whereas the government side, I know that OG will talk about all the benefits of tightly integrated families, that you get that financial support, which might be a precondition for many other things, and you're also able to um get yourself, have like your own safety net for all things in life. Like you could take your risks in life knowing that you have the confidence of the family with you, and that your family goes with you forever. So I already know I need to make a lot of potential arguments that I might want to elaborate on at closing government. There are a few things that I would do. The first thing I'd probably do is I want to make an extension that focuses on like the leverage. and relative negotiating power that you have within your family. And then I would try and unpack the assumption. The assumption of OO's case is that tightly integrated family um, is authoritative and that it overwhelms you by imposing tradition, etc., etc. But that's not really. That's not like we could unpack that assumption and then win the debate just because we broke that assumption. We could say that there are many incentives. There are many incentives within a tightly integrated family for it to be very, very lenient and understanding. So I wouldn't even say these are incentives. Like there are just simply many reasons and many um like expectations that are set that are set within a tightly integrated family for it to be very lenient and understanding. And we could explain how this is the case as a consequence of it being tightly integrated. When you are tightly integrated means that you live with each other and you go through and you share a deeper sense of vulnerability and trust with one another. Yeah, and this applies outside of like it actually, I would argue, it supersedes like that assumption of authority, like your grandmother, grandfather having complete power over you and dictating everything you want in life, like even your parents having like power over you. Like I would say that the fact that you are tightly integrated, you know everyone's problems, you know everyone's demons, you share each other your secrets. All of these things are reasons to believe that people don't always have like one big assumption of you are a disappointment, you're worse for everyone, right? That like it breeds more empathy more than not, and it almost always creates that safer space that allows people to share their grievances with one another. Now I would say this is very dramatic. It's going to be a difficult process. It's quite difficult to mediate these these disagreements all the time, and there will be fights all the time in family, but that's fantastic. This is good because tightly integrated families know that our baseline is family, and that we will never abandon one another. And I think this is a quite important way or a quite important mechanism that says that it's not authoritative. If we can prove that there's negotiating power, then we also get all of the values that there are thing that we can change and evolve the value system of a tightly integrated family to be able to respect the individualism of certain individuals. And that's why this argument is going to be very good. So later on, we know that the framing of this argument addresses the individualism argument of OO. Alright, this is fantastic. I'm really not that worried about this argument. I know that there's going to be a secure extension no matter what. So let's just try and come up with more ideas since we have a lot of time left. So we've already tackled one good idea on like negotiating power within the family. That tightly integrated families share that emotional burden. It's gonna be very, very good for people to support one another, and that this is also gonna be very good for understanding. And this is also in and of itself a good benefit for a lot of people. One other idea that I'm thinking of right now is that we want an argument that addresses the counterfactual. We want an argument that addresses why tightly integrated families are very, very, very adaptive. They're very adaptive, not just because they have more money to support one another, because that's a very simplistic finance related mechanism that OG will immediately take. But I want to talk about the counterfactual more. And so I think it is possible to make the argument that the decline of tightly integrated families is often very disruptive and and it causes permanent damages to the family members. So how does this decline happen, and why is it a very, very, very disruptive thing? um I would say the following, that it like we want to make the mechanism, like eventually in the argument I want to make the mechanism that uncertainty of whether a family member is going to like leave the family, it, it causes a lot of strain and emotional damage. Like you have more unproductive fights, you have more um risks of people dividing property and not being able to share in paying for rent. You cannot sustain those houses that you had from long ago. And so I think this is just another way to explain that you're dividing resources in a very, very um significant way, that like it breaks that trust that you once had from one another. And I probably want to play along with decline a little bit more. If the decline did not happen, and this is our counterfactual, if the decline did not happen, then um it is actually quite easier to pool resources for particular individuals that are taking big risks in the family to work or move elsewhere. Right? So like if people immigrate, or sorry, migrate to other countries, if they know that that family will send remittances back and always visit in times of crisis or during holidays, then that's a good thing. That's a good and fulfilling, stable source for the family to turn to. So I think this is great. This is a great argument. It actually is an argument that eventually becomes empowering. Like you're saying that like tightly integrated families does empower people within that family because they are able to divide those resources effectively, right? In our world, they're divided more effectively because they're pooled more effectively. And I think that's a great, great argument. We even managed to stick in this like process decline argument that might be very nice as well. Let's go with one more. Let's go with one more argument as well. Maybe I'm thinking like an identity focused argument. There might be an identity argument that we can play around here. Um, I would probably make I'll keep it. I'll pencil it in right now. Identity based argument. And I would say that family family is great as a concept. Family is great as an identity, is who you are. Um, Maybe the framing would be that like, like no matter who you are and what you become, every identity in the future is always compared against your childhood and your early family experiences. And this can often be very dissociating uh, and traumatic for a lot of people. And so the reason as to why tightly integrated families are great is because they evolve with intergenerational change. Like old people that die, while also maintaining some sense of connection with the past lives of these people. Now, I think this is admittedly quite an emotional extension that I want to play around with. I really want to play around the idea that people like the endemic reality is that like family will not leave you, even if you choose to leave it on either side. Right? In some sense, family, like the bad memories of family or the good memories of family will stay with you regardless. And so what we do at minimum, what we do with a tightly integrated family at minimum is to um create this space in your living memory that the tightly integrated family persists and that it is constantly changing with you as you grow old, and that is a more wholesome memory to work with. I think this is fantastic. We could play along with this idea. Maybe we might subsume it under another idea later on, but for now, I think it's quite different. I think it's quite independent in some sense, that we want to make an identity based argument to deal with the opposition argument that there are multiple competing identities that people can have and access. And I think this is perfectly fine. We say that family is inseparable from any other identity because it's the first one that you have. It's one that a lot of people remember for the rest of their lives and they compare them with. And that is why we want to prioritize this the most. Yeah, I really like this argument. So right now we have three arguments, very very nice lines of analysis that we could play along with. Initially, we didn't really know how to do our counterfactual, but then eventually, when we made our arguments, after characterizing a tightly integrated family on all its mechanisms, we said like, yeah, this debate is about leverage and negotiating power. It's a debate about never abandoning one another. It's a debate about like having more empathy because of vulnerability. It's a debate about like the decline and how that is very disruptive, and how the counterfactual would mean that we could actually pool and choose our resources better. And lastly, it's a debate about identity. What is your foundation? How can you create that foundation? Other people cannot give you that foundation because you will always compare it against family, and this is where you're able to allow family to be a better memory that you can live on with in life. All right, fantastic. Thanks everyone. Have a great day and enjoy.